So how long were you in the Air Force total?
I think it was like 7 years. Yeah, it was total of 7 years.
Well, don't minimize that, Fraser.
Yeah.
I hear this all the time. I only did, and I've been called out for that too.
Yeah.
There's a guy, Tim Turner, super soldier type, right? And I had him on the show a few years back to talk about Operation Pegasus Jump. And I said, wow, I only served 4.5 years because I broke my second contract. He says, why are you saying only?
Yeah.
Why are you saying only? Well, I think for every case of stolen valor that's out there, there's 10 more that minimize their service.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's what I find. This show is sponsored by shopveteran.ca and the Canadian Legacy Project. Are you a veteran who owns a business? If so, register your business for free on shopveteran.ca, or if you would like to support veteran-owned businesses, be sure to make shopveteran.ca your first stop shop. Thanks, everybody. Hello, all you beautiful souls. Thank you for joining me for another edition of Operation Tango Romeo, the Trauma Recovery Podcast for veterans, first responders, and their families. There's all kinds of advocates out there for the veteran community, and one of the ones that I am highlighting, I've had Kathy Weigenthal on the show a while back. Blake Richards was a couple of years ago. We've had several members of Parliament. I'm going to have more. The reason is that the members that I've had, for the most part, have been part of the Standing Committee on Veterans Affairs. That's where, for the long-time listeners, the people that have been watching for a while, they know that I've testified a few times now in Ottawa. Now, one of the folks on that show is Fraser Tolmie, which I have on the show today. And welcome to the show. Thanks so much, Fraser, for making the time for me.
Yeah, you're just like family with you calling me Phrase. That's what all my family calls me. So yeah, thanks, Mark, and thanks for what you're doing with your podcast. And you've been a great witness in committee, and so very excited to be on your podcast today.
Well, maybe we'll start there. It's a weird experience to fly across the country to get 6 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes of testimony, and maybe 10 minutes of questions. So, as you probably noticed, the only people asking me questions is yourself or Blake, and then everybody else just pretends I'm invisible. Why do you think that is?
It's probably because they're afraid of what you're actually going to say, and it's not going to sit very well with them politically because maybe they're trying to cover up. And I don't mean that in a conspiracy theory way. I just mean it as that they don't want to face the truth, and if they can sweep it under the carpet longer, and they don't have to deal because they don't have the answers. They don't have the answers. Once they ask you a question and Pandora's box is opened, then they've got to deal with that, and they're afraid to deal with that. But if we ask the questions, then they don't. It's like they weren't even in the room.
I have invited Sean Casey on the show through every means that I know, and I like to reach across the aisle. My show is not supposed to be partisan. It appears to be partisan because of the people that will come on and join me and have a conversation. But this current government and the government before it, over the last 11 years, I've been on the air for 7 years, and I've had everybody from the Premier of Alberta to, God, just name it. I've had them. Mm-hmm. And I cannot get anybody from the Liberal Party or the NDP. They just won't come on. They just tell me to pound sand.
Yeah, well, I used to go to meetings and people would say to me, hey, what's Trudeau thinking? And I'd like, don't ask me. I don't know what he's thinking, and I don't agree with what he's thinking, and I don't agree with what he's doing. So stop asking me what do I think he's thinking. I don't have an answer, Mark. I truly, um, in the political sphere, there's always throwing mud and dirt at each other, and I understand that. I've been advocating for veterans for 5 years now, or coming up to 5 years. And we always get thrown this, when the Conservatives were in power, that they shut down offices. Well, the truth is, we streamlined them, and we were the ones that sent the military, proper camo when they were in Afghanistan because the Liberal government sent our troops with green camo. And that's not the problem that we're dealing with. The problem that we're dealing with has been 11 years of neglect and backlog and issues. And so let's try and make it better. But they want to start going back to this stuff. Well, you got to move forward. You got to start thinking about the things that we're dealing with, and that deflection is doesn't help anybody.
The criticisms I hear from the Harper years, and I don't know enough about it to know which ones are valid and which ones aren't, but I'm sure that there are some valid criticisms of the Harper years when it comes to the veterans world. The one that I hear the most is the 2006 Veterans Charter. So in '06, they scrapped the charter and went to something else. And what what can you share about that?
Yeah.
Because
So
I still don't really understand
yeah,
where the issue is there.
yeah, and I think there's. So I want to say this, Mark, and I've said this numerous times. I will not be held prisoner or captive of what previous administrations have done. The time and the clock starts for me now.
Yeah,
My
exactly.
job is to advocate for veterans and deal with the problems that we're facing right now. Now, if there are things that we have to own, no government's perfect. And that's the problem, is that there's a lack of humility and a lack of hubris to be able to say, okay, we're making a mistake. How do we fix it?
Well, I've
And
never heard it acknowledged. Like, I think it would go a long way, Fraser, to like for Pierre to say, "Yeah, yeah, that wasn't great. Lifetime
yeah,
pensions evaporated, and that's a valid concern. And yeah, that was not a good idea back then, but that was 20 years ago, literally 20
yeah.
years ago this year, and we've learned from our mistakes. Like, I've never heard anybody say anything like that
Well, Mark, when you're and I, people for your listeners, I was a mayor prior to being a member of parliament.
of Mucha.
Yeah, I was the mayor of Moose Jaw, and
That's cool.
yeah, there's some videos out there about us. Uh, but anyways, that's a side note, and I'll share those links with you later on. But here's what my point is. Um, we've got to set the tone, and the challenges that we're facing. When you're making a decision, you make the decision based on the knowledge and information you have at hand. Challenge with it is sometimes you don't know what the unintended consequence of what that decision is going to be. And we need metrics. But because we have governments for 4 years, 4 years, 4 years, you don't have a long term metric to be able to see, okay, did that charter really help us or did it hinder us? And so, we have to look at that. So I don't want to avoid the question, but there are some weeds that we've got to go into with respects to how's that charter impacted people. And I've heard some positives and I've heard some negatives. But the challenge I always see is that we have this industrialized mentality where it's a cookie cutter approach and one size fits all. And we're now in a world and a society where we have iPhones, iPad, self banking. You get to watch whatever you want on your Netflix, Prime, Apple. You get to choose, even though other people can choose the same things, but it's catered to that individual. And healthcare has been an issue like that as well. And so we've got to change the mindset and we've got to change the way we do things in order to give individual care because every situation is different. And that's the problem with governments and that's the problem with healthcare as it stands is we we've got to think beyond that. And it's happening in schools and education as well. So there's got to be a bit of a reset here and there's smart people out there that can figure this stuff out. I mean, if I can talk like this, then other people can be having the same conversation, and we could be doing a better job of helping people. And that's what basically pisses me off. Oh, sorry, didn't mean
No, no, it's
to.
okay.
Uh,
You can even drop an F-bomb on the show.
okay,
It's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. Well, okay, good, because I might be doing that. But that's what really pisses me off is basically where we're doing study after study after study after study, and nothing is getting done. There's no uptake on how to help. We're saying, hey, listen, these veterans aren't getting the care because of this. Well, let's fix that. Um, but it's not happening. There's no uptake on the recommendations that's been happening. And I've been in a committee meeting, and I've gone report, 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 report for the last 10 years, and there's been no uptake. Why is that?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, and I like breaking this up because it's the most upsetting veteran story that I know of, and there's a lot of them. But the story of Christine Gauthier,
Mm, mm.
from your perspective, what happened there?
Oh,
It's as heartbreaking as it gets.
yeah, this one hits pretty close to home for me. Um, you know, this woman has just got the heart of gold. She's heart of a lion. She comes into committee with a um, carry-on suitcase that's bursting at the seams with file after file after file after file.
And just
And
to for the audience, she drug that giant box of files in a wheelchair
yeah, yeah,
through snow,
yeah,
literally through a snowstorm
that's right,
in a wheelchair to get to committee.
to get to committee. And so she's sitting there and she's like, I can't get anything done. I can't get anything done. And in her frustration, uh, her comment was, to the VAC official, um, I can't take this anymore. You've got to do something. Basically, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't want to do exact quotes, but her frustration level is, I can't take the fact that you're not dealing with my files. And the VAC uh, employee says, well, why don't you consider MAID? That,
Medical assistance in dying. So, just for the audience that doesn't know, they offered to kill her. We can't help you, but we can kill you.
yeah. And I'm like, no, that's not what her mental exasperation was. It's, I can't take the fact that you people are incompetent and not doing your job properly. I need help. I need help to clear these files. I need help for a ramp to my house. And I
Well, it was
remember,
more than that. It ended
yeah,
up being an elevator, but still.
yeah, and she just basic needs, and she, uh, is there pleading her case. And I remember we were having a committee and there was something that was going on. And basically, the Liberals did a horse deal trade with the bloc in order to avoid this. And she didn't get what she wanted. So she was basically thrown under the bus.
And that was after the approval letter. So she got an approval letter saying, yeah, we're going to finally build the damned elevator after 5 years of fighting for it. And for the audience that doesn't know this story, Christine Gauthier, a veteran, was injured while training. She was injured on an obstacle course. And because those injuries weren't looked after originally, she degraded to the point of being in a wheelchair. And uh, so all nobody is arguing service related. So she was in that wheelchair because of neglect, because of service related injuries. And she had to literally crawl up and down stairs all winter long, all summer long, rain, hail, sleet, or snow.
Yeah.
Christine just had to go up and
Yeah.
down the stairs, and she'd use a rope to get her wheelchair back up or back down. And horrendous. And they just refused to build the damn elevator. And then they gave her a letter saying, after international coverage, because I broke the story, and, and then I had a lot of help. I had from the National Post and all kinds of documentaries that I had her on. And it's also ones that I had nothing to do with, like she was on Tammy Peterson's show, Dr. Jordan Peterson's wife, um, just numerous. And despite all of this, and despite the fact that she's a Paralympian, that she represented Canada in the Paralympics and the Invictus Games, and she was the literal poster girl.
Yeah.
Like they bragged about her, like actual posters of
Yeah.
Christine Gauthier doing her paddle sports in these games, and even she couldn't get the damned elevator built. So after 5 years, 6 years actually, of crawling up and down stairs, which worsened all of her injuries,
Yeah.
I promised her I would figure it out, and it took me a couple years, but I did.
Yeah.
I called Reynolds for Heroes and filled out the paperwork to nominate her. She got the nomination, and Reynolds for Heroes, a nonprofit charity kind of organization, uh, built the damned elevator. They fundraised, paid for a big chunk of the elevator. VAC chipped in for a portion of the elevator, and Christine out of pocket paid for the rest. So VAC only got one of three pieces of the pie instead of paying for the whole damn thing. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you for your work on that. As I said, I remember that committee meeting, and I remember getting a bit choked up, and it's not because I was sad, it's because I'm angry. I'm angry that people live in that. And Mark, we've seen it. We've seen people that are living on the streets, that they're couch surfing, that they're living in their cars, and there is a better way for our veterans, and um, yeah, it's disheartening, and we've got to be doing a better job. We have to be doing a better job to help our veterans.
I'm not never going to stop telling that story, and the way she was treated at committee. Oh, oh, sorry. Every now and then, that speaker's kept picking up your breath, and it sounds like a wind tunnel.
Sorry, I apologize. I've got a little bit of a cold here, but I didn't want to miss the committee meeting, or I didn't want to miss the committee meeting. Oh my God, I didn't want to miss your podcast. So I'm drugged up, I'm coffeed up, and I guess I'm funneled up here.
Yeah, it's all right. It sounds like a scene from Twister. But,
Twister
but
Tolmie.
Twister told me that might be your new damn name. That could be it. But the minister at the time, when everything was breaking loose, what's his nuts? Oh, what was his name when all this broke? Who
Macaulay,
was the
was it?
minister at the time? Yeah, Minister Macaulay. Basically called, in not so many words, flat out called Christine Gauthier a liar, more than once. That, well, there's no evidence to support that. Let's talk about that in so-called air quote investigation about veterans being offered MAID. Do you believe that there was actually an investigation that happened?
I think that there was a call for an investigation. My personal opinion would be that it was, let's make a few phone calls, let's look like we're doing something, and then come back with a report. But there was nothing to see here.
No.
It was weak. It was weak.
Well, they had the original party line of, and very blatantly, of it was just one veteran. It was one veteran service officer or VAC employee, and that's it. And they were sticking to that like glue. They swore up and down on a stack of Bibles that that was the case. And then the day before committee, I had a whistleblower on who went by the pseudonym Bruce, and I sent that uh, um, emergency broadcast to everybody. And before the minister came on to testify, because I did that, well, okay, it's still just one VAC employee, but it was five veterans.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, out of the blue, there's five veterans, not just one. Their story changed. And I probably should have broke it after he testified one more time and said, just so he'd have even more egg on his face. But um, they only changed the story because I brought Bruce on. That was the only reason. And then we found another, and then we found another, and then another. Then they just pretend that they don't exist.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to again that that scenario where Gauthier Christine goes, I've had enough, like you know and someone misrepresents, and it's out of their scope. That's not what you're supposed to be doing. And our first job is, how do we help this person, how do we get them the care, and let's get them you know through this process. And even the process is just a bloody nightmare. I had a vet in yesterday talking about PCVRS and the gong show that is. And he was here for over an hour, and he kept apologizing, and I'm like, don't apologize, don't apologize. I need to know this information in order for us to be able to help you and figure this pathway forward, because I've not been through it. I can only assume it, but he walked me through detail after detail, and basically telling me that he's gone for assessment, reassessment, and then another assessment. And during the assessment, he's filling out this questionnaire, and it's like a psychological profiling. Uh, and
Yeah,
figuring
they're
figuring
they're brutal. Like the intake, the flaming hoops of fire that we have to jump through. It's really incredible. Although the last bit of benefits that I just got squared away, I think it was Bing Bang Boom. So I don't know if they're just rubber stamping it. They're going through a phase right now where they're just rubber stamping. If I got lucky, if my name has a special little star on it with VAC because of the work I've done. But it just went right through. Both my wife and I was like, we're not going to get approved for this. I was like, I know we're going to have to appeal it like we always do. Everything else has been appealed,
yeah.
but not this one. It was Bing Bang Boom, and here you go.
Yeah,
So,
it's this guy was, and I'm like, is this psychological profiling? And he goes, yeah, I felt like I was being asked whether I was being was I lying,
yeah,
on, and are they trying to catch me out on a lie? And
and
so
that
that
was through PCVRS, right?
that's through PCVRS. And this is, a contract that's with LifeMark. And it's, there's some stories behind that, but the truth is like, let's get these veterans care. Let's get them the benefits. Let's get them into the programs that they need. And it's just hoop after hoop after hoop after hoop.
For,
And
for the audience, could you explain what PCVRS is and how it came into existence?
yeah, so the Liberal government contracted out PCVRS. It's through Veterans Affairs. It's a $600 million contract, basically to provide care that Veterans Affairs should be carrying, giving. And so the company that is running it is LifeMark, which is basically Loblaws. And uh, now these vets are, they're being split, and so they've got a case manager, and now they've got a PCVRS worker, as far as my understanding is. And then they have to go through, they get a phone call, and uh, they do an assessment on the phone, and then they think, okay, well, you've got my release information because I've already signed off for you to have that. And so then they've got to go for another assessment, which is like 300 questionnaire, which is 4 hours long. And
Yeah, they're brutal, and because you have to relive everything,
that's right.
and I had to go through that, Fraser, and I, I mean, I had to take days off after. Like it's like you got hit by a truck. Like it is brutal, and I think most people can't even make it through those processes.
Well, and that's the thing is a lot of people just say, well, I'm out. I don't want to go through this. I've just been traumatized. So, there's a term, and you know, it's good for me to learn, but the term that was brought forward from a witness a couple of weeks ago is institutional harm.
Hmm.
Well, I've been focused on, sanctuary trauma, which is the government not treating veterans properly and then they feel betrayed. Well, now you're going through institutional harm. So it's piling on the amount of stress and drama in people's lives when all they want is, care. And it's disgusting. And I'm upset with this contract. I don't think it should be extended. I personally think that the Liberal government should backtrack on this, that they should cancel it.
What was the rationale for it? Instead of just expanding VAC, why would you contract it out?
Well, I think they've already expanded VAC and it wasn't working. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, okay, so to get political here, it, I have seen in the past 10 years under this Liberal government a decline in service from the government. Canadian Revenue Agency is a gong show. I've got people coming into my office making complaints. I had a guy that worked at the local co op gas station, was getting gas. He goes, Fraser, you won't believe this. I got a letter from CRA. They want me to write a certified check or a money order to the Receiver General for 13 cents. For 13 cents because they overpaid me on my CPP. Why don't you just send a little note in the next in our statement that you're getting? We overpaid you 13 cents. We're just going to take it off of this. The amount of paperwork, the amount of money that was spent on that letter, and then he has to go down to the bank. Oh, or they're going to take it off at 25% increments until it's totally paid off. Go ahead, he says. Do that. 25%
Of 13 cents.
of 13 cents. Okay, so that's CRA. We've got issues with immigration. We've, issues with passports. We've had issues with Veterans Affairs. We've got procurement issues. We have issues with national defense. The Liberal government does not know how to govern and get things done. They make announcements after announcements after announcements. And then, we're going to do another study. And that's what I'm sick and tired of in Veterans Affairs. Let's do another study on this. We've already had 12 studies that you've done nothing about. So why are we
Yeah,
having another one?
Kathy Wagenthal was talking about this.
I'm getting
the
fired up
circle.
here, Mark.
Yeah, well, the circle of the studies, because she's been around in that committee for quite some time,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden the same study comes back. It's like we've already talked about this, and nothing. Like, why don't we just pull up the files from the conclusions of the last time we did this 4 years ago, and actually do something?
Yeah.
Well, it's just like make work projects, you know, just coming up together with. So let's just talk, and do absolutely nothing.
I,
That's what it seems like.
well, and okay, so let's split this up. There is proper consultation, right? When you're going to do something new, you want to include people into that. So you have a proper consultation process. Okay? So that's one. And I agree with that. That's the right thing to do. The second thing is if there's been a grievance, you want to make sure that people are heard. And I agree with that. But what I don't agree with is a waste of time for things that are common sense that have been screaming out that need to be changed, and you just want to have another report or another study to delay making that change. I believe that the democratic process is an ancient process, and it's a long it historically it's been around for a very long period of time. It can be slow, and I understand that, but there are things that can be done to make changes for the betterment of the population, and that's where my frustration comes. But then what happens is you seem to mix in all the other things and you forget that there is, it's important to have consultation. It's important to hear grievances. But if there's changes that are common sense, let's get those done. Let's fast track those instead of having another bloody study because I'm getting fucking pissed off with that shit. Sorry again. You can bleep
Uh,
that
uh,
out.
uh, no, no, we're not bleeping nothing. On the Of all the members of the Standing Committee of Veterans Affairs, other than yourself, how many are veterans?
None. I don't
So
think
you're
there's.
the only one.
Yeah, and you know what, Mark, I didn't serve very long. Let's be honest. I mean, but I've had a. I'm very close with a lot of people that are still in the in the military. I did a degree in war studies at King's College, University of London. You know, it's something that I'm passionate about. Uh, but
So who did you serve with? What is your
yeah,
service?
so I was in the Air Force. I was in the pilot and training program.
Cool.
Did OJT in Bagotville, Quebec. For a number of years, I was with 433 Fighter Squadron and then 425 Fighter Squadron because they merged. Was part of that program. Colonel Blondin at the time was the wing commander, and asked this 2LT to kind of help and facilitate that. And so, I was punching above my weight in that area, and then went through Portage, and then came to Moose Jaw, and then just my age and whatever started getting sick in airplanes, even though I had a commercial pilot's license. And so, I've got close friends that part of the Snowbirds fighter, you know, um, fighter group, and others that are served in other capacities, and cousins that have been in the military, PPCLI, and so it's close to my heart, and I decided to stay in Moose Jaw, and you know uh, be part of the community because my ex-wife was from here, so I wanted to kind
So
of.
how long were you in the Air Force total?
I think it was like 7 years. Yeah, it was total of 7 years.
Well,
S-
don't minimize that, Fraser. You know,
yeah,
I hear this all the time. I only did, and I've been called out for that too.
yeah,
Um, there's a guy, Tim Turner, super soldier type, right? Patricia, airborne commando, all, free fall airborne
yeah.
commando. You know, all this stuff. And I had him on the show a few years back to talk about Operation Pegasus Jump. And I said, "Wow, I only served 4.5 years because I broke my second contract." He says, "Why are you saying only?
Yeah.
Why are you saying only? You know,
Well,
like
I don't want to be one of
there's,
those guys that thinks he's did a plan, or was operational planning in Afghanistan or anything.
well, I think for every case of stolen valor that's out there, there's 10 more that minimize their service.
Yeah, yeah.
No, that's what I find.
Well, I just basically had a flood in my basement to the other day, and I was like, oh man, I wonder if I can still fit into my uniform. So, but I do work out at the base. I do go to the gym at the base,
Yeah.
and I enjoy that. I do miss that camaraderie. I do. My kids have asked me about that, and I do miss flying. It was something that I was passionate about, and I've thought about getting back into it, but I'm not sure with my hearing. I'm one of those vets that's been denied benefits with my hearing and tinnitus, and I'm like, I'm sure I just sat in this uh, committee meeting saying that was an automatic approval.
Yeah.
So
I got my tinnitus and I had to fight it. So when I first made the claim, they came back with 100% no.
oh
Like
my,
this is just no. And so I had to go through the Bureau of Pension Advocates, and that 100% no turned into 100% yes. It's like, well, that's a pretty big difference. And also, there was no room for me to explain the claim. Like it was, so I couldn't make my case properly when I made the claim
mm,
because there was no way to make your case properly,
yeah,
to really explain the logic and all the things that I went through of why I have tinnitus,
mm,
and which they don't even know what it is, and yet they're making judgments on it. Like
yeah,
tinnitus has nothing to do with your ears or hearing loss, like zero.
Yeah.
It's a neurological damage, deeper in.
Yeah.
It's brain damage for
Yeah.
lack of a better explanation, and they don't even understand that.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
making judgments on something that they don't understand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've done the research, and then all of a sudden you start getting these pop-ups on Facebook. Hey, to help your, fix your tinnitus. And I'm like, oh, come on, you know, you don't want to be buying that snake oil. But yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's funny. Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I really did enjoy my time in the military. I really, was passionate about.
Is the Air Force still considered military?
Oh, Jesus, here we go. I was gonna wear my Air Force sweatshirt. I've got an old route, and I'm like, nah, I won't be with that. I won't be that guy. But now you've taken the shot, Mark. I got to come
uh,
back. Yeah. Um,
well, infantry, I'm allowed, right?
yeah, yeah. Listen, I would like to say this, Mark. There's a couple things that I'd like to point out about committee that you brought up, and I have respected working with Blake. When I first got elected, new to committees, and when Blake came on board, I really have a high respect for him to learn the ropes. Because, like I said, I've come from a mayoral background, and to understand, the committee more, and get a good working relationship with someone that's, you know, been in the federal government for a while. I've respected that. I respected working with Terry Dowdle. I think he's someone that can ask some very, very good questions, and Arnold Viersen, who's also working on that committee. But I also have a high amount of respect for Kathy Wagenthal, because she has spent a lot of time on that committee. She has a lot of corporate knowledge, and I think that that's something that's very important for us. And as I've been on the committee longer, I've started to see the benefits of that, the benefits of the consistency. What I'm seeing from the Liberal government right now is that there is inconsistency. There's been 5 ministers in the 4 years, 4.5 years that I've been there. There's been 9 ministers in Veterans Affairs over the 10 years, or coming up to 11 years, that they've been in power. The problem with that is the incompetency. So there's consistency and competency, and they've been inconsistent and incompetent in delivering proper services. And I've understood that they've expanded Veterans Affairs, but the service hasn't gotten better. And that's what we want. And so then, going back to that PCVRS issue, they go and subcontract it out to try and get rid of the backlog. Now these people are beholden to this organization, and they won't get their benefits, and they're being threatened by a subcontracted organization that is basically Loblaws. And I don't like that. Veterans should be entitled to their benefits without being threatened. And yeah, I'm tired of the incompetence, and I'm starting to call it out. I think Jill McKnight is a very nice lady, but she's in the wrong job.
Well, the veteran community isn't very happy um, with her as a minister. I like Jeanette Petitpas Taylor though; she was quite popular. Like
Yeah,
she showed up, man. And I don't care what party you're with, just do your damn job.
yeah,
And she did. She showed up, and there was an emergency issue with one veteran, and now I can't rabbit out of a hat very often, but I got a hold of her because I almost had her on the show. I was an inch away, like we were just working out the finer details to get her on the show, and then the cabinet got shuffled. But I did. There was an emergency veteran issue with one, and she let me have contact with her, and it was fixed within 24 hours.
yeah,
Right. But that's what we need, Fraser. We need a group of people like myself who really know the veteran community well, who has official access to VAC for emergency issues. One just popped up the other day. I sent it to Blake. I was like, "Can you help, buddy?" But but there has to be like an official channel where it's like, "Hey, this is going on. This is a problem. It needs to be fixed and quickly. We don't have time to dilly dally on this.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what we need. Also need a permanent veterans council of only people that have served and not all officers. Sorry, buddy, but you need it. You need some
Yeah.
non-commissioned people, because we think differently and we've had a different experience in the military. But we need people like myself that was a corporal, and not just a bunch of former officers that helped you onboard new ministers,
Hmm.
and uh, and to deal, like a board of directors for for um, uh, for that file.
Yeah.
I think we really need that.
Yeah. I think there's some, I think now is the time to really, if we're going to make some changes, like let's do it all. Let's do it all and think about it differently and be able to approach it differently from a care point of view, not from like it feels like an insurance company that you're fighting to get anything out of them. And
Yeah.
I mean, I've jousted with Petitpot Taylor, and even recently she was asking me some questions, and she was one of the ones that was like, well, the conservatives shut down 9 offices, and what do you have to say about that? And then we're in the House of Commons and we're basically jousting. But as a person, I mean, again, I like her, and if she was doing a good job, well, that's great. You want to get key people in key positions. That was always what we were doing in the military. If you're capable, you're competent, you know, get like let's trust you and let's get the job done. But right now, I don't have that sense under this government right now that we've got the right key people in key positions.
I am a firm believer, and I've been thinking this for a while. And if I ever get Pierre on here, I'm going to pitch him the idea. But it doesn't have to be the government that has. How do I want to say this? So, in project management, say for commercial construction, there's all the different stages of every project, and for the clients, they have progress bars so that every week, okay, here's all the different steps that we got to take to completion, and we're at step one. It is now 60% complete, and it's expected to be 100% complete by this date. And then you get to see, well, all the metrics of how we doing on these timelines. The entire government should be doing that, but the opposition party can do it too. So you don't have to spend $50 billion on software. It's existing software. Just use project management software with public assets, or at least screenshot the damn thing and publish is like, here's where we're at. Here's where we're at. Here's where we're at,
Right.
and to keep the existing government accountable. But it seems to me that governments and accountability is like oil and water.
Well, and I think that comes very, very similar to that point that we were talking about earlier on, where we've got a 4-year slot, right? And you don't know what the unintended consequences are. You veering off course or are you staying on course? And we've got to be able to say, okay, what have we been successful at? And more importantly, what are we messing up in, and how do we make it better to keep us on course? And not just say, okay, you know what, we're achieving this, and 50% is a good number. We want to hit a higher number. And so I agree with you. I think we should have progress bars. And that was when I first had Petitpot Taylor in. I'm like, you're the minister. What are you going to do to make changes within the department? And I watched a video last night where I asked her 9 times, what are you going to do to make things better? And I never got a straight answer. Like, what is your assessment once you've walked in and said, okay, I'm now taking over? Or are you just sitting there and just going, okay, the bureaucrats have got this, and we're just gonna roll with this, and I'll just make excuses every time I go to committee and say, yeah, everything's good, and we're gonna do this. And that's where we get this glossy, brochure of everything's nice and this is where we're going, and nothing gets done because there's no evaluation, there's no metrics, which is exactly what you're saying. We need to have metrics. We have to see where our success is, and are we on course?
I'm doing some business coaching right now for a friend of mine that's looking to build a significant company. And there's policies and procedures for everything, which what you have to do to build a scalable company and one that's efficient. And part of the coaching is coming up with proper metrics. And without those metrics, if you don't measure, you don't know if there's any progress or not. And I believe that Canadian voters have a right to know, how's my government doing? Like, we all have a right to do that, like the government is supposed to be working for the people, not the people for the government.
That's right.
And so the opposition party, or anybody, just some private citizen, can say, okay, well, here's the promises, here's the top 10, right? And here's the timelines that were proposed. Now here's what's actually happening, and here's the progress
Yeah.
bars. Like, really simple visual cues to say, here you go, like, what happened to this? And it's like, and then have on there, was this goal abandoned? And then you keep track. Here's all the goals, the promises that were abandoned. Now, if parties did that, and they had the list of, like, their platform promises right before the election and then after the election, to hold not just yourself but everybody else accountable too. There's nothing stopping anybody from doing this,
Hmm.
and having that information publicly available.
I 100% agree. You know that, when I set myself personal goals, I want to be able to follow through. Now, one of the things that I'm doing, and it is working on my French profile. Okay, so I have a French tutor in Ottawa. Okay, and We were meeting once a week, and then we've decided to go 2 times a week and break it down because the bucket gets full for Fraser. Right, I'm an older, and but then I go to my, we have to cancel a meeting. We have to cancel a meeting. So what does that do? That delays my, you know, ability to be able to complete the course that I want to, and it extends my deadline. Well, okay, if I were if I were in government and I were going to be under that same scenario, that's when I would say, okay, listen, we have to communicate with the public. The timeline that we set out isn't going to work. We're going to stay on track, and we're going to extend the timeline, and it's because of these reasons. Make Give the explanation. Don't
uh,
try and hide or deflect or uh
you have to measure your progress.
yeah.
J'étudie français tous les jours avec Duolingo pour plus que 5 ans maintenant.
Hey, I'm on there, Babbel and Duolingo, and uh
Babbel wasn't working for me,
right.
but I like Duolingo, and uh, and my score on Duolingo after plus que 5 ans, after over 5 years, is just 40. So I can't bullshit anybody. Like, I can sound pretty good with a rehearsed phrase,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
but it's like, well, that sounded solid. Yeah, but that's all I could do.
yeah,
Um, but my score is 40 out of 160s. 160 is the goal. I will complete this bloody course.
yeah,
If I have to be 92 years old, I will complete it.
yeah,
Right. But I can say, oh, hey, Mark, how's your French coming? I'm a 40.
yeah,
I got to get to 160.
yeah.
That's where my French is at.
Right.
And, well, what does 40 mean? Well, this is what 40 means. It means that I can kind of muddle my way through conversations about some very simple things, probably order a meal, and get basic thoughts across.
Yeah,
Butchering my grammar as I do it, but I can be known and I can understand. And as long as the person I'm speaking with, plus lentement, s'il vous plaît, you know, then I'm okay.
yeah,
I can muddle through. I know where I'm at, but only because there's a score.
yeah.
And every single government promise needs the exact same thing. And more than that, you know what? Canadians bloody deserve that. It's not like we don't have the technology,
That's right.
right? And it's not like we have to spend billions of dollars. You can literally, like, the conservative government can do this right bloody now for like less than $200 a month for a subscription to one of these softwares.
Yeah,
Like, just you get a project management software for $200 a month at the most, and just fill in the fields.
Well, and again, and you're doing this business thing, but it's and military, you set the vision. This We're going to take this hill. This is what we're going to do. And then you've got to be able to communicate to all the levels to get it through. This is where we're going. This is what this is our timeline. This is what we want to do. And and you know, communicate it. You can never over communicate, and that's what it comes down to. People don't like to communicate, and they like to say it once, or they like to say it enough times to get themselves elected, and then, okay, great, and we'll do a few things, and yeah, it's just
Well, it's the type of thing,
excuse
like,
me,
I think
my
it's a hell of
cynicism.
an opportunity. No, not at all. Like, I think it's a hell of an opportunity for Pierre Polyev to take what we're talking about here and actually do it, because then you're holding yourself accountable. It's easy to say, well, government has to be more accountable. Well, let's see you do it first.
Yeah, yeah,
Set the example, and and then like, that's the only way to truly hold the government accountable. That way, if we rewind a bit, okay, here's the problem with Christine Gauthier. She needs a gosh darn elevator. Like, she needs it,
yeah,
you know. So where are we at with that project?
yeah,
And it's something that doesn't get swept under the carpet. There it is. Here's the Christine project bar, and keep track of it.
yeah, yeah. I agree with you 100%. And uh, I did that when I was mayor. I ran in 2012 for mayor. I was city councilor. I got out of the military, and then 3 months later, I was on city council. And then I ran in 2012 for mayor, and I ran on that I wanted economic development, and I ran on uh, infrastructure, because there was aging infrastructure, things that needed to be addressed. My opponent ran on, I'm very well known. She was a former MLA, NDP MLA, within Saskatchewan. And then I've got lots of experience because she'd been in politics. So she won by like 470 votes. Well, it wasn't her vision. And so she put those things into place. And by the end of her 4-year term, the city had turned on her. And people were like, you've got to run again. And you've got to run again. And it was my passion. It was my dream. It was my vision. So, when I got into power, we attracted over $1.3 billion worth of investment and reinvestment within the community to grow the city. Then we started dealing with infrastructure, aging infrastructure, cast iron water lines that had been in for 100 years, over 100 years, and over 50 years, over the two booms within the community. And then we took what we had was reserves, and created an investment committee so that we could actually get higher interest rate to reduce the amount of burden on the taxpayers, make their money work for them, so that we could put those into infrastructure projects and get more done. That was my dream. That was my passion. That was my vision. You can't take someone else's dream and someone else's vision and, you know, pick and do those things and then try and make them part of your platform, which is what the Liberal Party has done recently. They've not.
It's pretty funny. Conservatives are bad. They're so bad. But we're going to take all the conservative policies and do that because those are popular.
Yeah, exactly. So, one of the things that I'm very passionate about is carbon tax. And I know that this is not a veterans thing, but bear with us, veterans that are listening. That carbon tax has actually been downloaded onto other levels of government. So while we're having a healthcare crisis, hospitals are paying carbon tax. While we're having an education crisis, school boards and schools are paying carbon tax. In municipalities, for rec centers or a swimming pool, the additional carbon tax that's been added on to run those facilities, the parents are paying. So there's only one taxpayer. at whatever level of government you have, municipal, provincial, or federal. So that those carbon taxes have been downloaded onto that one person. So while kids are learning to swim, parents are drowning in taxes. And and so what does Carney do? He takes just a portion, the consumer, and he doesn't take the industrial carbon tax off. We're still paying it. And so it's not part of his vision, it's not part of his passion, and it's still hurting our country. It's still hurting our economy. So it's got to be, you come up with an idea, you see a vision. It's got to be the people that come up with it that you've got to trust to be able to get it done.
Yeah. What in the years that you've been on committee, what do you think are, say, the top three issues with VAC?
Uh, that's a very good question. I the issues that I've seen, a lack of hearing. That's number one. That's not a policy issue. That's just there's a lack of understanding of what your role is to help veterans. Okay, I believe that there are very, very good uh, Veterans Affairs employees. I 100% believe that. So one of the biggest challenges is some outdated policies to get the money to where it needs to go and get the veterans care. So that's one big issue. And I think really just reassessing, what is how do we really look after veterans? How do we want to treat them? And I think we have to have an honest conversation. Is this uh, present day situation, the way the policies that we have, are they working, or do we need to just overhaul this whole engine? Excuse me. Do we need to just come up with a different model? It's like, the biblical story, new wine into old wineskins. Maybe we've got to change what we're doing. Maybe we've got to take on the Australian model. And,
Well,
you know,
there are so many mon pop organizations out there. I mean, I've got over 350 episodes, and I've only talked to a fraction of them. Right, and that's what I do. I'm the aggregate. I'm the guy that's finding all these different resources and bringing the founders and the practitioners on the show. And I've only found a few of them. You know, so for veterans, if like the network is there, but it's not connected. So what VAC can do is to connect that network, do
mhm.
basically what I've done because nobody else is doing it. Give me a phone call.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I'll help you build it,
yeah,
and or at least scroll through my shows like who is out there helping veterans, and just support those networks, like support those resources. And in the Veterans Association in Calgary is amazing, and it's got numerous locations, and they're growing to be national. The Veterans Association Food Bank, and VAC does support them to a degree, but support them more.
yeah,
Organizations like that, or my sponsor, Canadian Legacy Project, uh, that houses veterans through Homes for Heroes, as well as all kinds of other programs. Support them. Support the people that are supporting the community. And there's many out there. And then, and it's actually an idea from Aaron O'Toole, who I had on the show some time ago. A great veteran, a very nice guy.
mhm.
Uh, I still don't think he's a conservative, but that's but he doesn't seem to know that. But a very nice guy and a nice veteran. But his idea was to have a veteran passport where a veteran can go to, say, my show, find a resource and go, that's what I want to do. And there's no arguing about it. Just like, okay, here's a valid resource, go do that, and VAC just covers the bill. He called it a veteran passport. I think that's a great idea because you have to meet people where they're at. The box that they make you go through is very, very small. Like the service offering, service offering through VAC is the OSI clinic and pills. Like that's what you get.
Yeah,
And if pills or the OSI clinic are just not what you want to do, well, then you should be supported to do whatever the hell you want that you think is going to give you recovery, whether that's going to a float tank or a psychedelic retreat in Belize, like whatever the hell it is, go do that.
Right.
And that's what has to happen from my perspective.
Yeah. You know, I there was a term that came up a couple of weeks ago again that I really was impressed with. It was called social mobility. That the
Mm.
U.S. looks at the military as a means of social mobility, and I believe the Israelis do that as well, and we don't, and we really should. For our veterans that you've served, you should be connected. You should be recognized for your service, but you should be recognized for your skills. It should be a means of Ivy League kind of universities down in the US kind of thing. Oh yeah, we remember, and you'd be able to bounce off ideas off of other veterans. We should be doing so much more. Our culture really should be changing to recognize that within our communities, and I believe that a lot of Canadian, or I believe that Canadians respect veterans for what they've done, but I just don't know if they always understand the challenges that veterans go through after they've served. And really, what you're doing, Mark, is highlighting that. And what the most important thing that I've seen uh, veterans do is they help other veterans. I've heard so many times where veterans have said, "You know what, Fraser, I've been looked after by Veterans Affairs." That's a great story, and I'm happy. Let's give kudos where
Yeah,
kudos is
there
deserved.
are good
Okay.
there are success stories,
Yeah.
Fraser. 100% there are.
And so it really makes I have to recognize that, and I do recognize that. But that vet will also say, I've got a buddy or I have a friend who he or she hasn't got the service and they're struggling. And it hurts that veteran. It hurts that veteran to see that their comrade is struggling, and that's what you're doing, Mark. You're reaching out to other people. You're helping others that need help, and hopefully our voice reaches that we can give people some hope. Yeah, it's very very important that veterans are looking after. So I believe there is some social mobility within that, but I think that we could be doing that through helping veterans with businesses, or getting connected within different work areas within, whether it's avionics technicians in the civilian world or electricians or whatever, building homes, whatever it is. We should be relying, because vets, when you see people that have served, they're go-getters. I had this guy that I was in my office yesterday. This guy's fired up. He can never work full time again, but he's a fighter, and he's got skills, and I'm like, man, like there's so much potential in this guy's life, and he's 40 years old. Let's get him something else. And but then he's restricted to how much money he can make because of the benefits and everything else, which
Yeah.
that's another piss off. But
Well,
anyways,
it's not that way in the states. You can be 100% on veterans benefits in the states as an American veteran and still work full time without any clawback,
ex-
whereas we can't do that. So we're forced into entrepreneurism so that we can open a corporation and only pay ourselves less than the $20,000 a year,
yeah,
and we have to get creative with it.
the
But
government's going to get the taxes back. Like I feel like we need to do a part two here, Mark. Another
maybe,
podcast. But I like it. Okay, I lost my parents in in October of 24, both of them within a 3-week period. The government hands you a $2,500 check, and then the next tax year takes 500. Why don't you just give me 2 grand? Right?
well, exactly.
Okay, so why do I say that? I say that because if someone makes over 24 or over $20,000 and all their benefits, you just put them into a different tax bracket. They're going to pay more money back anyways.
Well, that's every federal employee, though, Fraser. Like from every member of the military to all you guys, all the members of parliament, just pay them the net and stop with the tax returns. Like if you
Yeah.
have a federal job, why in the fuck are you doing tax returns? Because you're not federal employees
I got an
don't pay
ex-wife. That's
taxes.
why.
Yeah, but federal employees don't pay taxes; they recycle them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Federal employees recycle taxes; they don't pay taxes. So just pay them the net,
Yeah.
you know, and and call it tax free. So
Absolutely.
whatever an MP's salary is okay. Here's the gross. What's the net? Just pay them the net.
Yeah.
I mean, it is insane to me that that isn't the way it is.
Yeah, simplify the tax system. And if you had my one of my assistants, Scott, my comms manager, and my outreach guy, uh, like if we go on a road trip, my riding is 5 square kilometers bigger than Switzerland. And so when we go out to do outreach and you get him started on taxes, that's it. It's nonstop. And I'm like, I agree with him. Like we can simplify the tax system and cut out the middleman.
So let's see between me and you if we can improve two things right now.
Okay.
Okay, just by committing on doing two things with each other. One, I would like to help write a bill, or at least consult on the drafting of a bill to have mandatory jail time of just 2 weeks, no more, just 2 weeks for stolen valor.
Yeah, mandatory jail time for stolen
Of
valor. Okay. And what's the other thing?
And the other thing, another project would be how in the hell, since I'm the only guy probably in the world getting all the resources together, how do we get my show, Operation Tango Romeo, on the Veterans Affairs website as a resource?
Okay. Well,
Because the show saves lives.
yeah,
So why is VAC not helping me with that? Yeah, I'm critical of them all the time, and I also clap for them. Like I want them to win.
yeah. So do I.
I
So
want
do
them to
I.
win.
I totally agree with you. That's what I want. I want wins. And that's, in our opposition role, it's, we come across as very negative, but we have to challenge those that have authority over that department to have a better vision and to provide a better service. So that is what my role is. That's the way I see it. I don't see it as partisan. I see it as serving veterans that have slipped through the cracks. That's what I've heard. Um, you know what? I think you and I need to circle back. Obviously, I'd love to come back onto your show, so I'm inviting myself back on. Uh,
No, absolutely, Fraser.
uh,
It's a regular thing, and I have a second show that started. By the way, it's called the Veteran Sphere. So it's myself and Dave Morrow. We're both the OGs in this space. He focuses on physical health, and of course, mine is mental health. And every Tuesday at 2, the Veteran Sphere. And yeah, maybe we'll have you as a guest on that because it's news and current events in the world of veterans.
well, that sounds good. I'd like to do that. Okay, uh, you've given us a task. Let's try and work something out on those two areas. And then the only
Beautiful.
thing that I'm going to ask, if you don't mind, because I feel like we're winding up here.
Yep.
I was going to just do a post on my social media, but if you're okay with this, um, if you're a veteran that is slipping through the cracks, that you are struggling and that you need help, um, what I'm going to ask you is number one, write to your local member of parliament and then CC my office, Fraser Tolmie, MP at parle.gc.ca. Let us know the challenges that you're facing. We will do the best that we can within our capability to respond. Now, we are not Veterans Affairs. I want to point that out. We are not Veterans Affairs, and but we will. We're collecting data and information so that we can hold the government accountable, so that we can say these are the consistencies of issues that we're finding, and and we need your help. And the only way that we can do that to make this government change and to provide a better service is if we have all the information. So please CC us, but ensure that you are contacting your member of parliament and letting them know the challenges that you're facing with Veterans Affairs. You're not squealing on them. You're just basically letting them know what you're facing, but we want to help and we want to do our best. And I've been reaching out to veterans, making regular phone calls to veterans when I can on my off times to let them know that they're being heard.
Thanks for being here today, brother. I really, really appreciate it.
I've really enjoyed my time, Mark, and thank you so much for what you're doing for our brothers in arms.
I'm doing my best. Doing my best. Stay on the line, Fraser. You're listening to Operation Tango Romeo, the Trauma Recovery Podcast for veterans, first responders, and their families. If what you heard today you think is useful or helpful or has any value whatsoever, help me help the veteran community by sharing this show. Share like the sugar bear, because sharing is caring.